Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good afternoon, friends. Today we have a very eminent guest called Dr. Joy Goswami. Joy Goswami is a director of intellectual property and licensing at a research foundation, SUNY, that is a State University of New York, and currently serve as a chair of AUTUM, Global Association for Academic Technology Transfer Professionals. Joy has a nearly 2 decades of experience across John Hopkins University, the University of Delaware, and now currently working with SUNY, as I said. Joy has built an internationally respected career in the research commercialization, startup creation, and industry engagement. A USPTO, registered patent agent and registered technology transfer professional, that is RTTP, he has played a critical role in launching over 30 startup companies and advancing the commercialization of the innovation spanning in therapies, diagnostics, smart devices, AI-driven platforms, and sustainable materials. Dr. Joy has led successful partnerships with global companies such as Amazon, BASF, AstraZeneca, DuPont, Water Corporations, and Siemens, at catalyzing translational research and co-development ventures. So we have a very good, eminent, and a leader in the area of IP and tech transfer, Dr. Joy Goswami. Welcome, Joy. Welcome to India.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, for this wonderful introduction, and I wholeheartedly thank AICTE for inviting me here. Pleasure talking to you, Pradeep.
As you know, innovation doesn't come when it gets published. Innovation comes when it actually makes some effect in the life of the students, faculties, and the common citizens and or the business. So for that, just publishing the IP or publishing the paper will not work. For that, we need to have focus towards the technology management and technology commercialization. And for that, the Choi has his own views and strategies also, which he has developed in his entire career related to the technology management and technology commercialization. So I would like to ask, with this reference, I would like to ask one question, Dr. Joy. How do you see technology management and its importance specifically for the students, faculty, and the academic ecosystem? The importance of the tech management.
So, Pradeep, that's a very good question, and maybe I should just begin by stating the fact that there's a difference between invention and innovation. So that is a very critical difference. It's not just the meaning of the term, but the fact that we talk about innovation all the time, and for anyone who actually builds something ground up, the subtleties between the two definitions is important. So let's just take the definitions out of the way here. And for clarity, I just wanted to mention that inventions happens all the time, right?
Okay.
Since the time human beings became bipedal organisms, that is, it evolved from becoming human beings where they used legs and freed up the two hands. It started developing tools, and every which invention that you have eventually seen that has gotten human mankind to what it was. So invention is something that happens all the time, and there's a general feeling that invention is created because of a need. So in other words, as the proverbial statement goes, necessity is the mother of invention. So whenever there is a need, people eventually have their brains to eventually develop something, and invention happens. However, in the world of technology transfer, and I'll come to the definition of tech transfer in a little bit, invention is really not as critical as is innovation. So all inventions may not be innovation, and when I say that, I mean to say that inventions that have a commercial footage or a capability to have some commercial application, it is then called an innovation. So what professionals actually try to identify when they see inventions coming from either student or faculty is to see whether there is any commercial weightage given to it, and if there is any potential for it to eventually form, to have an impact in the society where there is some kind of a value added in that invention that is of commercial value, then it is called an innovation. So what we are really doing in general is to try and identify innovations from inventions that we received from people who are inventors, and then trying and determining whether those are of some value to be brought up to the society. Innovations obviously has to cover a long way from the time it is invented and innovated
Yes.
by faculty and students. And usually, again, this is probably, and with due respect to all students and faculty members, it's usually not done best by them holistically. It used to be the situation earlier, but with changing times, to get an innovation into the commercial pipeline, there's so much of complexity that one has to go through, that it is always upon those innovators to hand over the innovations to some technical people who have the capacity to actually handle it. And those technical people who have the capacity, the knowledge, the acumen, and the capacity to take
Correct.
those innovations from the people who have innovated them to the commercial marketplace are called tech transfer professionals.
Correct.
So the definition of technology transfer is basically in and around the space where those individuals take those technologies from the hands of the innovators and eventually put it in the commercial pipeline, which unfortunately is not nearly in the number in which we want it to be. We would really want it to be 100% take these innovations and make it and get it to the commercial marketplace, but sadly it doesn't happen because of various reasons. One primary reason, of course, is the fact that technology transfer professionals have to be more adept in handling these and finding good places or good enterprise that can eventually take the technology to the next level, whether it's a startup or it's a medium-sized company or a Fortune 500 company. So to make those matches and make sure that the inventors are given their proper credit for inventing or innovating the innovation that they've done is really left upon the job of the tech transfer professional. So
I'm very happy, and I should appreciate the kind of clarity you have, Dr. Joy, because you talk about the invention and innovation in a very brief and very clear manner. And I'm thanks to you, because this podcast has been going to watch by many students and the faculties, and they are, I'll tell you very frankly, they are very much happy and a kind of an aspirant towards the tech transfer related activity. And when they got to know about the exact understanding of the invention and the innovation, this will directly boost their confidence and think on how to proceed with this one. So when you talk about this invention and this innovation also, Dr. Joy, I found, based on my own understandings and the observation, is that many faculties and students, when they directly go for the tech transfer related activity, they usually they do a mistakes. So what do you feel that whenever any student or the faculty, when they are actually working on the tech transfer related activity, or in fact it is a kind of a process, it is not a single or the binary kind of an activity that whether it is 0 or the 1, but it is a continuous process for the tech transfer also. So when the students and faculty are working on the tech transfer related activities or the projects, I would say, so what common mistakes generally they should avoid? Just to name, whether it is related to the publishing, whether it is directly contacting and disclosing their entire technology to the industries without any documentation. So these are the some citations I'm just throwing to you.
Sure.
Okay, and based on your understanding and the observation, if you can guide my students and the faculties on what common mistake they should generally avoid, or what common mistake generally they may do. So if you can highlight on those points, that will be very good.
Sure. So that's a very good question, Pradeep. And just to give you a general background, so I'm a tech transfer professional myself. So my job, in some respects, is to assist innovators to take their technology and commercialize it. So if the buck stops at the point where they have invented something, come to our office and said, "Hey, tech transfer professional Joy, can you please assist me with trying and taking my invention into the next level?" So it is my job really to take that invention at that point in time and eventually do a critique of that invention to figure out, first of all, whether it's an innovation or not. Okay. So the first thing I do is to see if there's commercial legs. By definition, that's what innovation is. And once we see that there is potential for it to eventually have an application in the marketplace, we try to make sure that we give proper ownership to whoever has innovated it. And that ownership is a legal piece of document which many people don't quite realize is something that is what we, in today's term call intellectual property protection. And there are various ways you can file that intellectual property, but what we are really in effect doing is for the innovator that came to our office and gave us those innovations, we want to give them proper credit for doing it. And so this is sometimes, seemingly very easy, but it's not, because we have to make sure that we have the guardrails of the legal system of the country that provides that capability. And one of the attributes of filing for innovation or intellectual property protection is the fact that we want to make sure that there is novelty in what they have done, whether it's a piece of software they've written or a piece of literature they've written,
Correct.
or something where they've written where there is credibility enough for it to be filed as a patent, which is sort of the mothership of everything, and then it kind of boils down to all kinds of intellectual property protection, the end of which is usually what we call a trade secret or a know-how. So that's kind of the gradation we have. And there's obviously copyright, there's copy dress and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of things that we eventually attribute to it. But the one thing we have to always keep in mind, and for the sake of simplicity, and I don't want to go into complexity, let's talk about the fact that a faculty member comes to us and says that they would be interested in getting something where they want ownership, and we feel and review and find that it isn't something innovative but needs to be deemed as a patent application. So when we have to go through the patent route, the patent law is very clear in trying and emphasizing that there has to be novelty to that patent. There are 4 attributes in every patent application: novelty, usefulness. It has to be useful.
Usefulness.
You can't make snake feed and say, this is a wonderful feed for something that we don't care about, or something that is only applicable as a landfill. Those applications.
Absolutely.
So there has to be novelty. There has to be usefulness. It has to be non-obvious, which means that whoever has innovated it cannot actually give you an invention based on 2 different inventions and commingled it and said, I've invented this. Absolutely. So we have to make sure that this was something that was not obvious to somebody who is reviewing it. And then finally, it is enablement, that they've actually documented it well enough and clearly enough. So these are the 4 primary attributes we do. But where the best practice falters many times with either students or faculty is the novelty aspect. So the critical part is that when somebody innovates or invents something, they have to first go ahead and file a patent before they disclose it to the rest of the world. So that's a critical attribute which many faculty members and students miss out. So what they would typically do is that they would give us the innovation to say, this is great, but you know what, I went ahead and went to a conference and I spilled the beans. There was a presentation that talked everything about what I did, and there were 200 people sitting and they feverishly jotted down everything. So what you in effect have done is you have made this non-novel because you have publicly disclosed your invention. And somebody who is sitting in the audience could technically, again, whether it really happens or not is a different story, could jot it down and file a patent before you.
Yes.
So if that happens, the novelty is done. So to keep the critical bar of novelty, and from a tech transfer professional like me, we always emphasize one of the best practices is to make sure that you first file a patent and then go ahead and publish it to the rest of the world, or disclose it.
Filing a patent, then going ahead with this the tech related activities, commercialization, that is fine.
But now, some people think that filing a patent is a very high bar and it's very, very tough. I can speak of US, and you can obviously speak of India as well. The bar is not as high. There are some very subtle and nifty ways to go ahead and file a patent, even in the US, as soon as 24 hours. So if there is a need for somebody to really desperately disclose it to the rest of the world, my recommendation is always to that innovator to come to a faculty, to tech transfer office, and get it filed as a patent.
In India, AICTE is also running one initiative called Kapila. So Kapila is a very successful initiative, dear friends, as most of you have heard about this Kapila. That in Kapila, we promote, encourage the students and faculty to file the IP. And for that, whatever the filing fees are there, the government fees are there, generally the AICTE take care of that filing fees.
Wonderful.
So here we have a very handsome amount of count as far as the number of filing of patent is concerned in India through Kapila, through the AICT's initiative. But having said this, now, as you rightly said about some of the common mistakes from the student side or the faculty side, I think this is similarly applicable for the startups also, because even startup also generally publish the papers. They don't go for the tech transfer activity, so to say. And with this, now how do you feel that is what kind of an policy level pointers we should introduce for the tech transfer related activity or tech transfer related process? Now I'm coming to the policy part, from the mistakes and all those things. At a governing level, at a university level, at a I would say you also representing the chair of the autumn. So you please speak your mind that at policy level, what are the major pointers we should take care for the tech transfer?
So from a policy level, I think it kind of goes from the nuclear to the larger governing agency. So let's go with the larger here. Of course, first of all, there has to be a national policy. And from a national policy standpoint, the impact of those innovations should actually have a national guardrail. So the question is, for the most part, for again students and faculty that are listening to us, the question is what really is an impact of tech transfer that's going to be happening to the nation that you are bestowing itself to. So in other words, what we are trying to say is the policy here supporting innovation to end up happening? And so in that respect, if you are really interested to incentivize somebody, for instance, to do more and more of innovation, is the policy conducive to you to do that? And so in that respect, again, the innovators are sort of in some respects feeling that whatever they are doing will be of value coming to the society, because the policy sort of in some respects goes hand in glove. So that is from a national standpoint. And there are policies that are sort of more on the regional standpoint, which is, let's say for a minute assume that that faculty member is belonging to a particular university or a particular school, and the question then is, what really happens to the ownership of that invention when that faculty member goes to their respective tech transfer office or gets to get some help? So, and what is in it for them to eventually come to the tech transfer office and get the assistance? Granted, they get assistance at the end of the day, but does anything come back to them at the end of the day? So I'll give you again a general example. Again, from a national standpoint, when we talk about USA, and I'll talk about US a little bit, because of the fact that US has sort of been doing this for several years now. Again, there was a general mandate that the government felt that for all the innovations that are happening in the US, again, the funding agency is usually what is responsible for doing the innovation. So when a faculty member invents something, the general process is that they invent something because they were doing research granted by the government agency. And incidentally, while they were doing research, they hit upon something serendipitously or accidentally, which they think is valuable and would be of value.
Correct.
The question is then, they come to the tech transfer office, and then the issue is who owns it? Is it the government that funded it? Is it the university that is doing it? Is it the faculty member themselves? Who exactly is owning it? So there was a lot of confusion, and it was, again, say 50-ish years ago, that the agency that was funding that research was the rightful owner of that invention. So the tech transfer office would take it, and then they would give it back to the agency, and it's upon the agency to do whatever they want to do.
Here you are pointing that maybe your tech transfer office can take a lead.
So I just want to say, but they realized that process was not working very well. It was not, the faculty member was having a little bit of an issue. The federal government was really making it hard for technology transfer to happen. So they passed a law called the Bayh-Dole Act, and you'll be hearing that very often, which is a law where the government eventually gives the rightful capacity for the university to own the ownership of that invention. So the tech transfer office now gets control, and they can actually behave on behalf of the faculty member in every which way they want to eventually.
They act as a facilitator
Right.
So to say.
Right.
So that the faculty members and the students who would like to commercialize their tech can get the confidence out of it.
Right.
And accordingly they can
And they directly work with the university tech transfer office.
Yes.
And the tech transfer office has full liberty and latitude to do whatever they wish to do. Again, there are some guardrails, of course, regarding national security and how they eventually envision the fair value of the technology when
Correct.
they license it. But again, there is a policy here that is giving the message to the faculty member that now it is your tech transfer office that has ownership of that invention, and it's upon them as to what they want to do. Now, the tech transfer office felt that they need to incentivize the faculty members for what they're doing. Now, this is very different in a private company.
Yeah,
in a private company,
I understand.
if a scientist invents something, all they get is a nice plaque and a handshake and maybe a little bit of a bonus money. But universities thought that, all right, now I have latitude. Why don't I go back to the inventors to incentivize them so that they come again and again and again with more innovations? So what they said is, when we eventually end up licensing the technology, and if we get royalties, we will do the royalty distribution where you get the lion's share of the distribution.
I would like to draw your attention towards one more pointer, that the GCCs. In India, I don't know the scenario in USA, but in India, there are many GCC centers are coming up with the tech transfer related activity also. They are doing their internal research, the primary research and the secondary research. Once they do the primary, secondary research and they found that, okay, this tech can be with the potential to commercialize, the respective GCC themselves turn their activity, turn their desk as an TTO, so to say.
Excellent.
And they are supporting their own employees as well as the outsides also, maybe other stakeholders of the company for this activity. The similar kind of things are happening in the academic ecosystem also in India, and in most of the universities have established their TTE offices. They are working, definitely they are working. And yes, as far as policy is concerned, we should have the leverage not only towards the TT office, but mostly towards the students and the faculties also, so that it can be an win-win situation for all of them, so to say. Now, when we talk about this invention, innovation, policy matters, so to say, I being a student, I being a startup, for example, if I feel that my idea is really an Einstein idea, if I feel my idea is got a patent from the government, granted patent, whether I being a researcher, I being an inventor or an innovator, should I go with the licensing of my technology or should I start my own startup? So you, being an expert and the veteran person in this area, can you highlight how you can comment on this, just to reduce the dilemma of that student who is confused between whether go to licensing part or the startup part?
So the first fundamental question is, the decision is whose? Is it upon the inventor, or is it upon the basis of the tech transfer office telling the inventor what they should do? That is the first question.
It should be the inventor.
It should be the inventor.
Yeah.
So if it is the inventor, then the inventor, it is a matter of educating them to figure out exactly what is entailed in them starting a business around it, and what is entailed in trying and licensing it and giving it to a company to eventually end up doing it. I'm saying this is a scenario where the inventor makes a decision. So one of the obviously biggest attribute of this, of starting a business around it, is the fact that if the inventor does not have a very good perception of what it takes to start a business, it is a fairly high bar. So I keep underscoring this over and over again. As much as I like startups, don't underestimate how difficult it is to start a business, because now you're getting into a territory that you may not have been qualified to be one. Now, again, there could be serial entrepreneurs that have done it many, many, many times. That happens, and if they've done it and failed or succeeded, that's one side. But oftentimes when they come for the first time and they think that my invention is best thing after, like you mentioned, sliced, and not just sliced but buttered bread. So this is the perfect invention I have. I want to start a business and make millions and millions of dollars. The fact of the matter is, it's not always very easy for you to eventually end up doing it, because there's a lot of.
So ultimately, the inventor should take a call on this. But I think he can have the consultation with the not only with the TT
Yeah,
office.
so now I go to the TT office. So then if the inventor feels that, I understand that it's not that easy. I've never been in this space. It's the first time I'll start a business. I don't know how many hoops I have to jump. However, I feel my technology is, the best thing that has ever been invented. It is upon the TTO's office to eventually provide the guidance and support. Now the TTO is like sitting like on the seat of a judge who makes a determination based not on the the capacity of that particular startup or the inventor who started, but on the basis of the technology itself. So there is actually a mechanism where when a tech transfer office receives an invention, there's a mechanism to make determination about whether the technology qualifies to be a startup or it qualifies to go into a company. And that's something that obviously it doesn't come very intuitively, and it is obviously something that doesn't come from an inventor, because the inventor will always be biased towards their own technology. So there is a matrix we actually draw, and the thinnest read to it is, the fundamental question is, what is the difference between a startup and a company?
Correct.
What is the difference between a startup and a company? I say that again because the difference between a startup and a company is not that the startup is a miniature version of a company. The startup is only trying to develop a business model of the innovation that they've gotten. That is pretty much all that they're doing. In other words, this is an innovation that is, from a tech transfer standpoint, a very disruptive technology. First thing,
Exactly.
It cannot be an improvement to a technology. And I'll give you an example of how I say improvement. Many years ago, and you may be much younger than I, so I'll tell you, we used to actually start shaving, and the razors we used to get were single blade razors.
Correct.
And they used to be treacherous, they were hard, and they used to actually
Yeah.
shave. So then came Gillette. They actually patented technology with two blades, and they got a patent, and everybody was super happy. And even Gavaskar was on TV saying that Sarashat saved, and he was doing a cover drive on these, and it was fantastic. Gillette brought it, so it was a big company. Then came three blades, and then the patent office thought, obviously, if two is better than one blade, three is better than two, for obvious reasons. And then when they came with the fourth blade, obviously the patent office started looking the other way. They said, I won't even give you a patent. There's nothing big about it. So the value of the technology when it was from one to two was a disruptive technology. But when it got from 3 to 4 was an incremental technology. So the tech transfer office has to look at it as though it is an invention. I'm dumbing down this innovation.
Exactly.
But the tech transfer office has to look at it into whether this technology that the innovator has given to me, is it a disruptive technology or is it just incremental technology? Absolutely. Incremental technologies never start a business around it. This is my 2 cents. Because the moment you go to an incremental improvement, you are much better off giving it to a company that is already in this business already. So go again. If it was a blade, I would say again, if this was something that happened 30 years ago, and somebody invented a 2-blade razor, that is a potential for a startup to happen, and they would be very successful. But if they have gotten from 4 to 5 blades, I would give it to a company that is existing. Again, this is again a dumbed down example. So what I'm trying to say is, a tech transfer office without the biasness of the innovator would take a look at the technology and make a judgment of whether it is best to start a business around it, because that business is disruptive, and that business is going to be where the entrepreneur will take a look at the market potential and build everything that is to do with business model, as opposed to a startup which already has something and they are just trying to get an incremental improvement so that it is sold in the marketplace. The one final thing I want to also emphasize here is that end of the day, the startup will get acquired by a larger company, because startups very typically, when they give you their business plan, will always have an exit plan, which means that I want to take the technology to so and so level, and then I will get acquired by a larger company. So that is the intent of the startups.
The scale of understanding of this difference for this disruptive technology versus incremental technology can be a good ready reckoner for the inventor to understand whether he or she should go with the licensing part or the startup part. So this is very good takeaway we can have for our students and the faculty community. Now, we all are working on the same area of the technology transfer practices, so to say. Now here, if I would like to promote this tech transfer aura, tech transfer practices aura. What points or the suggestions you can give to promote these technology transfer practices in a speedy manner?
So you're talking about
the awareness and promotion of the tech transfer practices at national level.
Right.
So any comment on that?
So I think I always believe on the fact that, so the question again was, how do you define a tech transfer office to be successful? I mean, so again, this is kind of something that has evolved. In very early stages, it used to be the number of invention disclosures that a tech transfer office receives. So when a university there, let's say there's an IIT, and you had 100 invention disclosures in a year, next year it has gone to 200. It means now the faculty members are starting to understand that they have to do more translational research as opposed to basic. So that was a good key to say that, my university now is getting more active in translational research, which means the faculty member are now thinking about innovation as opposed to just publishing or doing something which is more in the academic space. Again, I want to put a disclaimer here that there's nothing wrong in doing academic research. It has to be done. There is money there, and that has to continue. But only speaking of tech transfer, we only talk about translational research. So one of the KPIs at that time, key performance indicators, was number of innovations. Things evolved after that. Then they started thinking about how many patents are filed or issued.
Right.
And the reason when you say patent issued, then it goes to another level where not only are the innovations coming in, the tech transfer office is reviewing, they're filing, going to the patent office, they're filing, it is vetted by the examiners, and then being allowed. So that is a good reference. So then the same university says, I got 200 invention disclosures and I filed 100 patent applications, 50 of them were issued. And then you just make a reference of how many of them are getting issued in due course of time. So if it is 50 in this year, then it is 75 the following, then it is 100. That means the office is growing.
Correct.
But then people started thinking, so what? I mean, you can obviously get issued patents, but where are we eventually heading up in the big story? And that is where your answer lies, because then it became more critical to have success stories get out of into the world. So here, when you start talking about that vaccine that was developed that cured so many crores of people, or that particular technology that really had impact in developing something in the AI space, or that particular material that had impact in climate change, then you are really making some real progress, because not only now are you talking about innovations, you're covering number of patents filed, you're talking about collaboration that happened with company or startups that eventually came out, and the real impact in society.
To summarize this, I found that there are some bodies or the associations also, or the groups also, who are encouraging the technology transfer practices. Like in India, there are some associations. In fact, AICTE is also very much actively promoting the IP activities and technology transfer activity. In the private world also, in India, there are some bodies or the groups are there. In US also, as you represent Autumn, what could be the key role of these associations to promote the technology transfer practices? Any comment on this from the association side? For the promotion of the tech transfer practices.
Right, and again, I think it's mostly education. That's the biggest part, and try to educate the rest of the world what technology transfer is.
Either maybe through training or the any capacity building programs.
Yes, every which way you can look at. So education is something that basically goes with a potential for these associations to try and demonstrate and make the rest of the world understand what they're doing. Sure. So, I mean, things like, the term artificial intelligence, 10 years ago, nobody knew about it, right? How is it that you, or every childhood, even a small level, because they're getting educated about it. Similarly, technology transfer, maybe 10 years ago, nobody heard about the term. But now technology transfer, I'm pleased to say that several places, even in the media right now, are using the term technology transfer. And that has all come with the amount of promotion and publicity and education that is coming to the rest of the world. So as part of the association, and I hail from Autumn, which is one of the premier associations that has nearly 3,000 technology transfer professionals from around the world. and nearly 800 plus universities and institutes that are involved in it. And it's global. It's based in North America, but it's global and has footprints. And we have various connections with other associations around the world. STEM being one here in India, which
Yeah,
is
in India, STEM is very proactively
Correct,
working
yeah.
on this.
So we are collaborating with them, and our mantra is basically educate, promote, and connect.
Correct.
So it is basically trying to educate what tech transfer is, something what we are doing today.
Correct.
Subtle things like
Yeah, certainly. This podcast itself kind of a promotion and education towards
Exactly.
the aspiring tech transfer professionals as well as the students and faculties.
That's right. So again, listening to this, maybe some faculty members would say, "Hey, I've invented
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
but I just didn't know where to go or what to do." So they would pick up the phone and talk to Pradeep, and you would then know whom to connect, and
Sure.
so we are all connected in some respect. So it is
Sure.
the education part, the promotion part. So we are trying to promote tech transfer because that in of itself is where the real
Correct.
power and capacity of intellectualism is. And then, of course, we are connecting. So we are connecting with each other. We're connecting with the students, with the faculty, with the startup community, with companies, with you and I. And so we are really in a bit of a situation where there is an active dialogue and discussion going on,
Sure.
and we want to keep it open bordered. So this is not something that is confined to only a particular area, particular university, geographical distribution like a state or a country. So we are global. If an epidemic like COVID hits, we are scrambling to get a vaccine, and that's not when we should be bickering around to say this belongs to that country and not to the other. And India did a phenomenal job in acting
Yes.
as a big brother in the Southeast Asian region.
Yes.
It would not have been happening if it wasn't
Yes.
for active tech transfer that people did at that point in time, and that saved so many lives,
Yeah.
which is
Millions of
phenomenal.
life.
Absolutely.
How do you see Indian education ecosystem, past, present, and how do you see the Indian education ecosystem's role in technology transfer practices also?
Right, and I think it's growing. It's phenomenally growing. The education system is changing. It's much more gone are those days when you were asked to study something because you were forced to study. I mean, it's
Yeah, I remember during my childhood days, my parents used to say, okay, you have to study this and that. So you have to become engineer, or you have to become doctor, or you have to become. Now the scenario has been changed.
Scenario has changed a lot. There's a lot of profession that's come in play. Obviously, information is available everywhere you look around. So it's not that you're confined to only those textbooks, CBSE or NCERT textbook that were given. So you are trying to get a 360 view of what's happening around the world, which I'm really happy that the students are now trying to understand. The way the examinations are being conducted has been phenomenal. There's a lot of exchange of human resources across the world. I'm really proud to say that Indians are doing really well in the US, in many of the intellectual, strong areas, in universities, in academia, in hospitals, in businesses. How things are happening, and it's sort of a very enriched environment that people are getting to see, and that doesn't happen from vacuum. It's only happening because there's a lot of exchange of free ideas, and of course the intellectual capacity of this country is phenomenal as well, and they're all joining hands with people from around the world and making it all happen. So I think the education system is changing for the good. It is not biased, it is not driven by a few agencies, but it is sort of holistic. And especially I'll speak of technology transfer. People are now seeing how innovation and technology is important. I mean, I still can't even wonder what it was when internet wasn't there, or cell phone wasn't there, television wasn't there. That was a completely different area. And so technology has taken us to a place right now, even the way our interview is getting broadcast to millions of people around.
Correct.
Is because of the nifty technology that goes in. You may be surprised to know that your very cell phone that you have with you has 250,000 patents. As you buy, those numbers are just amazing. But there are 250,000 sets of innovators that have actually contributed for the development of your very cell phone. So you just pick up the phone and you dial your mom or your sweetheart, but you don't realize that that was enabled because of the fact that some innovators invented it, and there were tech transfer professionals who got that into the commercial pipeline and got it to where it was today. So it's everywhere. It's sometimes we call tech transfer. I call tech transfer the best kept secret profession. It's a wonderful profession. Speaking of those that really want to get into this profession, I think these associations are great to give you that kind of help. And I think Pradeep, you yourself have been accredited with the becoming the registered tech transfer professionals, the very few in India, but congratulate you for taking this on. And I think you become a brand ambassador to go and tell the rest of the world.
No, I'm a very small piece of this member. But what I would conclude is the Indian education system is not only changing but very speedily taking the initiatives, and thanks to the government of India, the Ministry of Education, and the AICT is also looking very proactively looking forward for this IP and technology transfer related activities at mass level, at a pan-India level. And for that, we have committed to support all the HEIs, that is higher education institutes, in fact schools also, and the universities for the activity of the tech transfers, for the activity of the IP filings. One good thing, dear friends, I can take out certainly from this podcast is that Dr. Joy has highlighted a very good point related to how to reduce the dilemma of the students for taking the decision between licensing and the startups. And the answer was, he was talking about the disruptive technology versus the incremental technology. So the same I can again put forward for you, dear friends. If any one of your students or the faculty is having a dilemma between the licensing and the startup initiations, then just again rewatch this podcast for your understanding and the simple understanding and the clarity, so you will get all the answers related to your own confusions if you have any confusion related to the tech transfer. Dr. Joy, once again, thank you very much. I'm really thankful on behalf of the entire AICT for sparing your time, and you have not only given the pointers and the suggestions to the tech transfer professionals and the students and the faculty, but you have made lots of things clear to understand and reduce their confusion related to the IP and the tech transfer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.